This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 72.
I didn't know the difference between a Bollinger Band and a beanbag chair.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host,
who wholeheartedly believes that Breaking Bad is one of the best TV drama series, like, ever.
Clay Trader.
I've never done meth. I don't plan on ever doing meth. But if I were to maybe become a drug dealer someday, I would want to imitate Heisenberg. Ches, are you a fan of Breaking Bad? Have you ever seen...
I surely am, and it actually sounds like it'd be right up your alley considering, your background and stuff. So you love to be precise about things. So measurements and things like that'd probably fit right up your alley.
Okay, I'm glad you qualified that statement because my background on things, I'm like, oh, great, what sort of impressions are you leaving with people? But because I'm precisely into measurements, that's what you meant, right? Not that I'm like a former
stock trading, former meth dealer guy. Yeah, I wasn't implying that at all.
Yeah, no, So Breaking Bad, if you have not watched it, give it a try. My wife even liked it, and we binge watched that thing. It's a great show, and it's not like it's violent or anything like that. So I think that's why my wife could handle it. But it's all like character. It's just a good show. I'm going to leave it at that. If you look at like any list of shows or list of all-time shows, that one's usually in like at least the top 5. So definitely check it out. But today we have a guest from Canada, and I did not, as you'll hear when we start up the interview, I did not realize it was a fellow, or not a fellow Canadian. I might have just Freudian slipped there, Ches. Do I wish I was from Canada? I don't know, but I think not a fellow Canadian, but our third ever Canadian, and I just didn't realize that until very shortly before we all got recording. So got to hear some Canadian accent. That always made my day, and a lot of good stuff talked about. In fact, one conversation towards the end really summarizes why most people just lose money. And I'm not going to say fail because some people do learn from it, but why do a lot of new traders lose money and kind of need to get kicked in the teeth? Vincent does a great job of explaining that. So yes, Vincent is our guest. He goes by trader-vic in the chat room. And it's been a while since I've talked about this. So real quick, hey, Clay, why do you only interview people from your group? Well, the history of this was never intended for the public. We were just going to do it for people of the community. That way we can inspire, motivate one another. But then it became an issue of, I guess if we can motivate other people, inspire other people outside of the group, that's cool too. So, but that is why, we don't go out and try to get, a bunch of random people. We like to keep it just community members because that's what it was originally intended for in the first place. And like I said, I like to do that disclaimer every 4 or 5 episodes because it is a valid question that I could see people wondering. So without further ado, let's get into this awesome podcast with our Canadian friend, Vincent. Vincent, I am in a great mood because no less than 15 minutes ago, Ches said, hey, Vincent's from Canada. I said, hey, we're talking to a Canadian today. So welcome as the third Canadian to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. The first 2 Canadians were pretty boring. So like I was telling you, third time's a charm. Vincent's going to just knock it out of the park. I'm kidding. The first 2 Canadians did just fine. But, I mean, Ches, we got to have some fun, right? With giving our Canadian neighbors up north a little hassle.
We always have to give them a hassle. That's just kind of the rite of passage down here to the south.
Exactly. Where they consider 40 degrees, sunbathing weather. But anyways. So Vincent, again, thank you for hanging out with us here. So let's start right at the beginning of your journey. What got you interested in the markets? What got you kind of intrigued enough to want to put some money on the line and decide to kind of give this all a go in more of an active sense?
Well, I've always been interested in stocks and investing and the wider world outside my own little world. But it really took off when I got my iPhone 5 a few years ago. That was the tipping point that made me realize that I could be involved in my personal investment journey because I had this new tool. I just had a flip phone that I hadn't had very long before that. But when the iPhone 5 came out, I thought, okay, I can afford it. And I took one look at it and saw the stock listings, and I just right away realized, oh, this is going to work out great because I'm in charge now.
So before this, though, I mean, the internet has been around long before the iPhone 5 came out. So why was it your phone that made you think, okay, now I can finally do it, as opposed to, just hopping on a computer? Did you not have a desktop computer or anything like that? Or, I mean, what was it that really kind of just made the light bulb go on in terms of a phone? So does that make sense? Because, I mean, the internet has been...
Yes.
Okay.
Because the iPhone was just so user-friendly, because I never took to computers when they first came out. I thought, even before Windows 95, when we had a 386 and then we went to Windows 95, I thought they were just good for playing Minesweeper. I didn't really know that I could be empowered and it would be useful in other ways. So I just never put all the little building blocks together. Okay, computer, spreadsheets, internet, investing. It just fell by the wayside, and I didn't even have a computer for many years. I just watched TV, and I didn't even have that half the time. I just worked and tried to take care of my personal life and further my own goals and take care of myself to the point that I could have another look at computers. And so that's what I did. I first got my iPhone 5, and then I got a PC, but I didn't understand it very well, so I put it in a closet and bought a Mac, and then I got online and opened an account, and here I am.
Now, for some context for our listeners, though, now you said you are obviously working full-time. Now, what kind of job do you work in where, do you have access to your phone and you can kind of be able to start doing that?
Actually, I don't work full-time anymore. I'm a building contractor, and I just do little contract jobs, little small repairs. I'm really just a handyman with a van and some tools and a nice little rented place here in Jasper. And when I moved to Jasper, I realized there was a huge demand for carpentry skills and painting skills and odd jobs, and it just really took off. I started doing more commercial work and had more time and more money, and that's how I wanted to go back to pursue my other interests, like learning music and taking an interest in things online, like music lessons and the wider world, because we live in a small isolated town, so the internet was just a godsend. But it took the combination of getting my life together and getting computers and learning about how to have a self-directed trading account, and all those pieces just came together slowly over the last few years. But I do regret, in some ways, I wish I discovered this online trading thing even 2 or 3 years ago. It just, it's really gathering steam now.
I think we're all probably in one boat in terms of, I wish I would have started sooner. Even me, I was in my early 20s. So looking back, I wish someone would have said, hey, at age 16, Clay, the stock market thing is not just for nerds. Like, you should start learning about it right now. Ches, would you agree? I mean, you got started young too, but looking back, do you wish that somebody would have gotten you started even younger?
Oh yeah, and I talked to somebody on the support chat the other day who was 16, and another person is 19. And I started at 25, so I'm really not that far behind. But yes, I totally wish I had started sooner.
Yeah, so I think that's a regret that we all share there, Vincent. But another thing that I found very fascinating and kind of makes me reflect back, and I'm not trying to get all sappy or anything, but you said, just the comment about the internet and how that was just, it really opened up so many doors, and that's just something we all take for granted now these days. It's like, oh yeah, the internet, it is what it is, but man, it used to not always be like that. So that's very cool, and kind of a good little look back on things we take for granted in this day and age. But now you mentioned that you figured out self-directed, accounting or self-directed trading and all that sort of stuff. How did you find the first broker that you ever signed up with? Maybe they're the same ones you're still using, but being you're still new, were you doing all your research from your phone? How did you stumble across this first broker, being that you were kind of super new to all this sort of stuff?
Well, I did start years ago, even back in the 80s. The provincial government here offered every citizen 5 free shares in the British Columbia Resources Investment Corporation in order to try and spur more interest in trading.
Canada.
Yes, I know. So everybody got 5 free brick shares, and it was kind of a running joke. Here's my 5 free brick shares. And they had their IPO in due course, and you were able to buy 100 shares with no commission if you bought before the IPO date. So I bought 100 shares for $6 each and hung on to them for a while. And then I eventually sold them when it looked like the company was going to be taken over and the share price went up. But I'm the only person I know that bought extra shares. Everybody else just used them for coasters or cashed them in for their $25. But I was interested in it. And so they went up, and when it came time to sell, I thought, well, how do I do this now? Like, I had to actually look in the yellow pages in the actual phone book, the paper phone book, and telephone them on a rotary dial phone, some broker in an office tower, and go down there and sign some papers to buy my shares, and then go all the way back to the suburbs. And okay, I got my shares, and they're holding on to them. And then when I sold them, I had to go back downtown and get the check. I had to go to their office, and they gave me a paper check. Here's your $625 after commissions or whatever. And I thought, and they asked me if I wanted to open an account, and I said, well, no, not right now. And so off I went. But it just seemed like such a lot of rigmarole. But that did.
It didn't seem like it was. Yeah, fair observation on your part.
But it did get me interested more, and while I was holding those shares, I started reading the news and watching television about news and the price of stocks and things, and I've just always carried that interest forward.
Now, Ches, the next time I make any complaint at all about, oh, I didn't get filled, or oh, I only made this, or oh, any sort of complaint at all about trading at all, I want you to say, remember back to Vincent, all that rigmarole he had to go through to drive to offices and do this and do that?
So yeah, you didn't get filled, but did you drive down to Grand Rapids to go to your broker's office to try to buy it and then miss your fill and then have to drive back? No, you did not. So you did not have it as bad as Vincent.
Oh man, I'm probably never going to complain again because, like I said, I got started in the day and age of internet being there, so I just can't. I have no experience. There's no baseline, either for Ches or I. So for all you listeners out there, those of you in the chat room, if you see Ches or I complaining, say, hey, remember Vincent's podcast? Because that'll be a nice little kind of slap in the face of it could be a lot worse. Don't be such a drama queen. So you were always interested. You got the phone, and then you eventually got a broker, right? So what was your first broker, that you signed up with?
Well, I went to one of the local banks here and got a trading account, and I think I phoned in an order and paid $45 or whatever it was to get my order. Like I set up a registered account, like an IRA in here, up here in Canada, we call them RSPs or whatever, but it's basically the same thing. So it's tax sheltered, but it was still like, holy cow, really expensive. Like when I got my iPhone 5 and I saw the stock listings and I saw the little chart at the bottom, I thought, oh, this is just great. I could, the first thing I did was open an account, and I bought shares in a mining company because it was around the time a couple of years ago when some sovereign wealth fund or somebody just dumped a whole whack of gold on the market, like 3 tons of gold, and drove the price to the basement. And I thought, oh, that means it's time to buy gold. So I looked around for a Canadian gold mining company, and once I had the idea of what I wanted to invest in, that's when I went and opened up the trading account and went through the learning curve of filling out their little forms to trade. But I realized right away that it wasn't working out, and that's when I discovered a low-cost self-directed broker called Quest Trade here that I opened another account with them.
Hooch's favorite broker. Hooch never had any problems with them. Yeah. But what's interesting about that?
They're okay. For somebody to... Pardon?
I was going to say, what I find interesting, though, besides anything about the broker at all is the fact that gold had just gotten completely whacked. And instead of you saying, oh my gosh, it's going, into the ground, it's going to the floor, it's going to zero, you thought it was a good buying opportunity. Now, why exactly did you think that? Because most people don't look at that at all. They pretty much see it going down and they just get extremely fearful. And then, they either pull it away and wait for it to go to new highs again or something. Or why exactly did that look appealing to you?
Well, first of all, nobody knew why it was going down. I thought that was a major plus. Nobody has an explanation. Well, that's even better. That's even more reason to buy because nobody knows what's going on. So it's just going to get cheaper and cheaper until somebody figures something out. But it still took time. And I didn't get into day trading right away or anything. I just looked at the price and tried to buy some for my registered account. And then I forgot about it. And then I just watched it come back up for a month or two or 6 months or whatever. But then I realized my knowledge was so limited because that's when I figured out that I had a 15-minute delay on the charts on my iPhone. And because I didn't know anything about live streaming data or charts or anything like that. I just thought, well, when the price goes down, buy some more. When the price goes up, be happy. But I wasn't really flipping them or day trading at all. Just kind of look at my phone once in a while. Oh, it went up. Good.
So you said something interesting a little earlier. You said, you signed up for your community bank and then you noticed that wasn't quite working. And then you went to find Questrade. What wasn't exactly working at first with your community bank brokerage that you were using? What did you mean by that?
Well, it's really expensive, like $45 to call in a trade or even to, and they try and get you to sign up for the mutual funds and they show you these drawings, where you have to identify your own risk level. You have to choose low. You have to self-identify your risk level as either low or medium or high. And I thought, well, that just doesn't make any sense at all to me. How do you expect me to fill this out? Why don't you just tell me what you're holding and what's your strategy? But they reversed it and dumped it all on me. And I thought, well, this just isn't right. So I wanted to take a more active role and do it myself because it just wasn't a satisfactory explanation to me. Made no sense. So I threw it overboard right away. I didn't hum and haw. I just dumped it. Got to look for something else. And that's what I found. Questrade, low-cost broker, do it yourself. Okay, that's a good start. That's better. At least I can make my own mistakes and learn what's going on myself.
Exactly, and not have to pay $45 one way. And I just brought that up because I was hoping that's where it was going to lead. For those for those of you that have been a longtime listeners, hopefully, or maybe that I suffered the same thing as Vincent. I signed up at a community bank, and I nailed my first trade. I mean, I was just bathing in money, and then all of a sudden, I realized the commissions I had to pay wiped out pretty much everything that I had made. It was still a green trade, but it wasn't nearly as green as what it could have been because of those commissions. So if you're new and listening and you're thinking, hey, I want to get involved, do not go to your community bank. Do not go to any mainstream bank. You got to use an online discount broker, and just because those costs can add up very quickly. So you sign up for Questrade. Like you said, now I can take things by the bull by the horns, take things under control. So how did that go? Let's get to that point of your journey. I mean,
and then the next thing that happened was I was very busy working. I was just working my tail off, and I had no time to take a breather really for a couple of years. And I was pursuing other interests not related to trading or to work. But when the time came that I was a little money ahead from all my hard work, I thought, well, I'm just going to pursue this trading thing more. And I got more comfortable with the online broker because that little gold mining company I just bought and held it for a year or 2 years. I don't know how long. And it slowly went up, $1 a year or something. It was a $6. It was when gold went to the basement, went down to $4 and then it crawled back up to $6 and it went maybe to $6.50 sometimes and up to $7 and down to $6, that kind of thing over a period of a year or 2 years. So I just followed it along like a pet, and then when I got money ahead, I looked further into it and put that money into my trading account and of my discount online broker. And then I thought, okay, I need better gear. And I got a computer and learned about the trading platform. Just in the last year, I did that.
So now I know you had, like you said, you were following around this one name. It's obviously based on gold because it's a mining stock. Now you're ahead. You just started getting more involved in it over the past year. Did you decide that you were going to branch out, or were you going to try to do something where you kind of maybe focus on gold or oil or kind of a commodity of some sort, or something that's related, that Canada produces? Did you want to kind of expand out and start trading, the Apples of the world, Facebook, Google, things like that?
Well, I had an open mind. It was a default to look at a commodity stock. It didn't have to be gold. I'm also interested in coal mining and copper and any commodity because it's kind of our bread and butter up here, lumber and minerals. But I knew that, of course, that there was the wider world of Apple and everything else, and Facebook, IPO, all these things are big news. So I'm aware of them, but I just didn't gather all the pieces together and realize that I could be involved and learn about doing all these things myself. So when I became more actively trading, I made sure that I had an account in New York as well as Toronto. I wasn't just going to follow the Toronto exchange. And I knew right away that the value of having a U.S. account in U.S. dollars is where it's at, because that's what lots of people do here. They mostly focus on the U.S. market, like the active traders and broker types that I've met over the years.
So you determine, I want to get involved in the U.S. markets. So that's kind of that's a perfect segue. So you make this determination. Where did things go from there? Now, does Quest Trade allow you to trade the U.S. markets?
Yes, and I feel that that's a Canadian advantage. We can trade both if we like. But with commodity markets, as the Canadian market is, you're pretty well, you follow the up and down long-term trends of commodities. So when oil is up, then sure, it's great to have a high Canadian dollar and have your Canadian stocks in high Canadian dollar. But when it goes down like it is right now, it's not so good. You got to diversify.
Exactly. So you determined though that you wanted to get involved in, USA stocks. So where did you go from here? I mean, did you know you wanted to do stocks? Did you think about doing options? Maybe you didn't even know what an option was. I mean, where was
were you using charts at all? I mean, we don't even know what your main ideas are right now. It sounds like it's mainly kind of fundamental, kind of supply and demand, isn't it?
I was trading on price and volume. I didn't know anything at all about charts. I didn't know the difference between a Bollinger Band and a beanbag chair. Honest.
That's in the quotes, Ches. That's a classic.
Yep, that's a quote right there.
Yeah. So you had no idea. I mean, you were, like Ches said, you were pretty much doing macroeconomic. Well, I think because of this dynamic that dynamic should therefore happen. So what was your first trade? Let's walk us through this. You say, I want to get in the U.S. stock market. I have my Quest Trade account. Tell us about the first trade that you did.
Well, actually, it was on the Canadian exchange, and I bought a penny stock.
Oh, here we go.
I was following the Toronto exchange, and I noticed that. I looked at the bull board of the stocks that did well this week, say, and the top volume stocks or top movers of the day, and I thought, well, here's a stock that was like 10 cents 2 days ago, and then yesterday it was 17 cents, and now today it's 26 cents. So I better get in on that because tomorrow it's going to be 45 cents. So
and you bought the top, didn't you? You bought the top, didn't you?
I bought the top.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And within an hour, it went down and stayed going down. And that was like around February of this year, I just made that mistake. So it's been quite a intense learning curve between buying that first penny stock and then holding it, hoping it would come back, and then learning all about the company and watching all the news and hoping it will turn around, and it showed signs of life. But I just dumped it last week for half its value.
So you just sold this thing. What made you finally decide to sell?
It was time to just cut and run.
To be fair, he only lost 50%, Clay.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
true.
pretty good for a penny stock. Not gonna lie, we've known people who have lost 99% or are still holding to this day. So at least you got half out of it.
But that was all in one very limited registered account that's called an RSP, which is very limited in what you could do. And while that was sitting there and I was wondering what to do, I opened up another type of registered account and went on with my life. I funded it with new money and experimented with other stocks in Canada and the US. And
you used just a minute. You used a very interesting word. You experimented with other stocks. Can you define experimenting? Because
maybe that's not the right way to put it. But I started following. I started just
gambling, maybe a little bit, or just randomness. I mean, I don't know.
Get him, Chris Hansen. Get him.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was it was like in March when we had the March rally of this year. And oil prices were $20, and then they were $25, and then they were $28, and then $30. So everything was looking up, and all the mineral stocks related to oil were up. So I was doing really well. I would just buy something, and then it would go up, and I would sell it, and the next day I would buy it, and it would go up, and I would sell it, and I was just doing great for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then. When the March rally started to wear out, that strategy of just flying by price and volume, not looking at any charts, knowing nothing about Bollinger Bands or simple moving averages. I had all those tools right there on my platform, but I didn't know what they were, or what they did, or how to press those buttons or anything. I just went by price and volume. Those were my two only indicators.
So how bad did it get then when the market, or when that rally started to fade? I mean, were you just, I would assume you're still buying. However, this time they weren't going up. So were you holding, or were you cutting losses fast? What exactly were you doing when, the previous strategy was no longer working?
Well, I tried to slow down, but I was kind of hyper trading, just buying and selling constantly throughout the day and getting eaten alive by commissions. And I could see that after the March rally peaked, my success peaked along with it, and I was going down the tube just like everybody else who was applying that strategy.
Isn't that amazing, Chaz, how when the markets are going up, everybody's a professional trader. Everybody's making money. It's the real estate boom, that's been a while, but everybody was a professional flipper in the real estate business. Little did I know that, that's just because the market's going up. It didn't really take any sort of true strategy.
I'm telling you, the beautiful thing about that is that it applies to all markets, because when Bitcoin went from like $10 to $900, I thought I was a great trader, because all you had to do was buy it, and if you were wrong, it didn't matter. It was still going to go up at some point. So yeah, it does apply to every market. But now, honestly, you notice, and I'm not sure if this is in hindsight, just looking back at it now, that your success is kind of waning with this rally that's happening, or that is not happening anymore. Is this your signal now that you still believe you know what you're doing for trading, and you're just going to pull in the reins and wait for another kind of rally? Or are you going to find a way to profit when stocks are going both up, down, and sideways?
No, I knew right away that this is not going to work. I have to think of something else. Like when I got into the U.S. market, I was following stocks related to the Canadian stocks that were familiar to me. So the Canadian mining stocks are sort of like FCX, Freeport McMoran. I was watching those stocks, but they just, the volume and price action was just far beyond me. Like as soon as it looked like it was going to go up and I'd buy it, then it was too late. It was already going down. I was missing the bus time and again. And the same with oil stock like WMB. That was a favorite because it was a little slower than Freeport McMoran, but still fairly reliable. When the oil price went down, I could I could watch it go down, the WMB price go down, and it would seem to go down further than it should have compared to the price of oil. So I would try and sneak in there at the bottom and wait for it to recover. But that wasn't working out either. And especially after the March rally wore thin and I just lost my touch. I had the touch for a couple of weeks and then I lost it. And then I just started looking around and I found this stock called Sun Edison that seemed to be on hard times.
Here we go.
Here's a stock on hard times, but it's down to like $2 or $1.50. But any type of little news flash of hope seems to make it bounce a little higher than it should compared to the faint hope news. And so I thought, well, I'll just take a chance on that. So I got involved in that. And so I got in very late. It's not like I lost a lot, but I did lose on that. And when the March rally wore off and the oil price sank again, that was the only stock that was doing well. My WMB and my other oil-related stocks were all tanking, and Sun Edison was doing good. So I held that for quite a while, like 2 or 3 weeks, month or something. And because it was, it was treading water for a long time before it finally, faded. And but once Sun Edison started to go too, I thought, well, that's it. I've got no winners. I have no redeeming evidence to inspire me to tell myself that I know what I'm doing. I obviously do not know what I'm doing. I have to find something else. And I was so frustrated following the analyst reports in the news, and I finally turned to YouTube, Sunny Stocks. And there was Clay with his whole stack of Sun Edison chart videos. And I thought, charts, oh, wow, that's interesting. And the rest is history. Here I signed up right away, like the next day, and started learning about charts, and just everything that happened before just got thrown overboard. Just start fresh. And
now I want to jump in here before Clay hops in, but here's a question. I'm not sure we briefly touched on it. You've never experienced any real blowout losses except your 50% loss in that 1 penny stock which you sold a week ago. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's right.
So you have pretty much been able to ride rallies. And now I know not all of your trades worked. You said you were flipping a lot and really kind of shelling out for commissions. Give us an example of the size of the losers you were willing to take.
The size of the loser. Do you want to know my exact account size? Or?
No. Just for perspective, were you making $500 and then when you'd have a losing trade, are you losing $400, or what kind of up and down? Because right now you just said you're just starting to get involved in charts. Now I'm not sure what your risk management has been up to this point, but it sounds like your ride hasn't been that rocky, and that's kind of a rare thing to hear. That's why I was kind of asking. Are you just really quick to nip your losers, or what?
Well, when I can, but what happened was even after I joined CTU, I was still trying to use price and volume as my main indicators. So I was getting into leveraged ETFs like DWTI and NUGT, and I wasn't timing it very well. I still had a lot to learn, so I was losing up to $500. Maybe it would be the worst it got on DWTI, like in a week, because if it just went down so much, I would just write it off and sell it. But then, a couple of weeks it would come back. But I was just trying to protect what was left of my account, because even after I joined CTU, I still had a lot to learn, and I made a big I don't know what kind of a big mistake it was, but I continued to trade with real money rather than paper trade. I didn't
Bingo, there you go. I was waiting. I was like, does he real? Okay, good.
I did not have the discipline to just stop trading. I had to sit at my computer and feel empowered and make real trades with real money, and my account went down by 30% probably, at least. But no more than 50%. But now in the last
Well, let me stop you right there, and we'll pick up in the last month or so.
Sure.
Thank you so much for saying that and realizing and just admitting that I wanted to feel empowered. That's that freaking ego that we all have to deal with. And at its core, that's just greed. What Vincent did and what so many people do is, and I'm not talking about my courses, I'm talking about any sort of course at all. It's, well, everybody's always saying that you have to invest in your education. You know, this guy over there, that guy over there, that clay trader guy, you got to invest in your education. You know what? I just invested into my education. And then all of a sudden they use that like their get out of jail free card. Because I invested in my education, therefore I can keep on trading with real money. That's not how it works. And as Vincent beautifully said, he didn't have the discipline to stop trading. I mean, you got to stop trading. Once you decide, you know what, I'm going to learn, you don't learn on the job in trading. Yeah, you can do that later on when you start very small, but just because you buy and invest into an educational course doesn't mean that you get to keep on trading. It's not your get out of jail free card. It's your card that says, hey, time to stop trading, go through the education, start paper trading, and then start very, very small. I mean, Ches, that's just, I mean, did you do that at all, Ches, or did you totally stop trading when you joined?
So I had to unfortunately lose more money, but just like you said, it's just, you know, you assume that, you know, I got educated, so now I'm good. I have a hall pass to go, you know, blow up my account. I had to lose about maybe 25% of my account before I actually said, whoa, I will have no money left unless I actually stop, pump the brakes, figure out what works on paper first, and then apply it small. Because, and what I learned, and this is what I always tell people all the time, is that even though I found something that worked on paper, going from paper to live, I still struggled because those voices still come out and it will still impact your decisions. And that's the whole point about repetition. If you can do it well over and over and over again, eventually it's just kind of an automatic thing. And that's how you'll be successful. But you cannot just go from doing paper and then trading your full account size, in my opinion, especially if you're brand new to trading.
No, and it's not even an opinion. It's a fact. Way too many think that the logic of sequence goes invest in education, trade, make money. It doesn't go like that. As Vincent, thank you again. Seriously, like that's such a good point, is he still lost 30% of his account after he bought my program. So I am not sitting here saying that if you buy my program, you're going to make money. No, that's not how it works. If you buy my program and go through it properly, take your time, go through it the, dare I say, boring way, then, hey, you got a chance. But just because you buy into my program or anybody's course, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're going to start making money. So you sound like you're going to say something, Vincent.
Well, and I don't know what would have happened if I continued, but you know, the March rally was in May, and then I was doing okay, and then it went sideways, and then, or in March, and then, but when May came along and I was losing money and I'd signed up for the program and trying to make sense of things, I found it really difficult, even when I was losing money, to tear myself away from these bad habits. And I was saved by my day job. It was springtime. I had to go out and work at my day job, long hours, day after day, for 2, 3, 4 weeks. And that's what broke the spell. And when I came back to it, I was like, oh, okay, now I'm calmed down. Now I don't need to click my mouse on the buy button every 5 minutes just to feel good. I can just take a break and look at the courses and think
chill
things
out.
Over. Chill out. Totally chill out. Absolutely.
Jez, does this not remind you back to Doc's podcast when he was like, I was a freaking crack addict? Like he just had to trade. Vincent, you were a crack addict. I was a crack addict. People, if you've never traded, you might not relate to this, but I'll tell you what, trading is fun. But that's the catch-22. Because it's so fun, it can get addictive just like a drug. And, you know, I'm not a psychologist, but like in order for the stimulants in your brain or whatever to make you feel like you're being an actual, like, I got to be trading. And it's literally like a drug. So the stock market is straight up crack cocaine. And Vincent summed it up perfectly. What saved him was his job, because his job literally, in the literal sense, dragged him away from the physical location of his computer and phone where he could not do it anymore. So, I mean, crack addicts, Ches, just crack addicts. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, and it's, you know, crack addicts, gamblers, the whole thing, because honestly, I was just looking up at my other monitor right now, and it literally flashes green and red, and it's just like a flashing thing, like a game, like it's exciting. And honestly, the more boring trading has gotten for me, and I'm only speaking from about 3 years of experience.
The more successful you've
the more
right?
money I've made.
Yes.
The more boring it is, the more I don't get excited, I don't get sad, the more money I've made, and just you're more even keel and you make good decisions. So yes, all the excitement. Clay, thank you for taking all the fun out of trading. It's totally boring and lame now, but honestly, it helped me turn a corner. But yes, it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Well, and to add one thing you just made me think of, Ches, is one of the pitfalls I ran into right away was that, well, now my account is going down, so the only way I can make money is if I go all in on one position on a small price stock. So, I could, if MGT goes up 10 cents, I can make money, but I have to go all in. And that was another total disaster. So what I'm most pleased about so far is that I've learned to trade small positions. Whatever I think is going to happen tomorrow, it doesn't matter, because I've just got small positions, and that has been my most favorite thing I'm happy about right now.
And that is just Clay, risk management, risk control. That sounds very like mathematical and very complicated. Vincent just did the most basic type of risk management you can do, and it's highly effective. He's trading small size. And small size, you maybe think, if you look at that and be like, well, he's not going to make any money then, because, he doesn't have enough shares or enough contracts. He's not going to make any money. Okay, time to kick those greed voices to the curb. You should be looking at it as, if things go terrible, if things go wrong, he's learning. It's not going to, kick him in the face. He's still going to have all his teeth left, because he's not, like you said, trying to go big or go home. Going big, you're going to go home eventually, because sure, you could luck out with one go big or go home trade, but what does that do to you? That just, your mind, your voice is going to say, hey, remember last time you went big and go home? It went big. Do it again. And you know what? It could go big again. But you know what the voices are going to say? Hey, remember the last 2 times you went big or go home? It worked out both times. You got skill. Go big again. And then one of those times, it ain't going to work out.
You're going home.
Yeah.
You're going to go home very sad.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. Yes.
Yep. And you can take your ball and go home, but your ball is going to be deflated. And it's just not going to be a pretty sight. So that is a vicious cycle. Is gambling works in the market until it doesn't, because then you're like, wait, well, what do? I'm used to just going big, but now this time I guess I got to go home. And it's a sad situation. It sounds like you were going to say something there, Vincent.
Well, the trouble with trading small positions, I knew that trading small positions was safer, but I didn't want to, because the commissions were too high. I thought, oh no, I better go big, because then if I make a bigger trade, the commission will be cheaper. Oh, like, what kind of a rationale is that?
It makes sense. All sorts of people use that, but they don't really think about, you got to look at it as like an insurance policy, whereas, yeah, you're going to be paying a little bit more money, but that's an insurance policy. Your commissions are an insurance policy of, well, it's given me small size and it's given me a great learning experience. Because at the end of the day, the only way you're truly going to learn is you got to hop into the markets, but small. Yeah, it's going to cost you more money because those commissions might eat away at things. But look at that as insurance in the event that the house burns down. Well, at least your own account doesn't burn down. So, that's the logic is really stupid when, like you said, when you stop and think about it. But for somebody that's new, I totally understand the logic. It does make sense. But when you really stop and kind of break down the numbers, hopefully you're glad to pay whatever your commission is in order to, just provide, that layer of protection of, just a small position size. I don't even know what we were talking about in terms of like 5 minutes ago. This has been a great rabbit hole that we've been in. So I guess, where are you at right now, Vincent? Are you paper trading, or are you trading with real money, just small size? Tell us, wait, a few minutes ago you said, the past month, and then I cut you off, but what's been going on in the past month for you?
Well, I've been realizing that my platform is very limited. I have to get onto a better platform, because I can't see the option chains and the level 2s the way I'm supposed to. And once I realized that, then I just backed off from trading actively. I do odd little swing trades, but in small positions, and I'm just biding my time until I get my new platform sorted out. And then hopefully things will change for better.
Now, what are you doing as far as practicing? What is kind of in your routine for how are you going to improve your trading?
By paper trading, because I can't even paper trade properly on my platform right now. In the near future, I'll have my new, better platform sorted out, and I will have a paper trading account, and I will be able to paper trade options. That's what I want to do. That's the number one thing on my list. Paper trade options for a long period of time.
Awesome. Now, better platform. I can see the questions right now in the comments, and it'll be a good question. What is this platform, this new platform, I should say, that you're transitioning to?
Well, I have my IB account funded.
Okay. IB standing for Interactive Brokers for you newer listeners.
But I don't want to access it because I only have one small monitor with my PC. I want to upgrade to another larger monitor, maybe two, and get my workstation properly set up and then start paper trading.
Why don't you want to access it with only one monitor?
Well, it's because I'm on my other platform, the Quest Trade platform. I'm already used to having more real estate with two large monitors and my laptop, and I find it difficult to switch between pages and look at everything I want to look at on one small monitor on my PC. So I'm kind of wanting to change. So
are you telling me that you want to keep it as realistic as possible from paper trading to real trading? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so, yes.
No, that's definitely what you said, and I will commend you. You are making progress, because crackhead Vincent would have been like, "Screw it, I'm going to do this stuff with one monitor." I realize it's not. Let's go right now, but so well done on your part for discipline of saying, you know what, I'm not going to even mess around with it with one monitor. I want to get everything set up, and then I'll start. I mean, Ches, talk about a 180 from the crackhead days to, that's about as disciplined as you can get in terms of wanting to do it right.
He's setting up his business. He's preparing for success now, and that's what you got to do. You don't show up to a gun battle with a slingshot, okay? You got to show up with all your tools and know how to use everything well. So, yes, he's doing it right now. It's a complete 180.
Yeah, so well done to you, Vince. That's I did have a method to my madness when I asked, well, why didn't you want to just go with one? I was hoping you would say what you did say. So thank you for not hanging me out to dry. So... so you're just, you want a paper trade. So that's kind of what your plan. Oh, now I remember. You said you want to be able to properly paper trade. Can you define properly, what in your mind is properly paper trading? And real quick, for those listeners, what is paper trading? It's pretending. It's acting like you're trading. It's a great way to figure out, how things are unfolding. So that's what paper trading is. But what do you mean by properly?
Well, I want to follow the guidelines that you set out in your video. Follow one trade from like an option paper trade from the beginning of the cycle for the length of the cycle of the whole week, and see how I do, and keep proper records, get my record keeping straightened out, and just do everything I can think of that I should be doing before I go through the same thing all over again that I went through in March, and just have better rules in place, better habits, better system, better everything.
That's the way to do it. That's what you got to do. Now here's a side question, because I don't think you were doing this before. What specifically led to your interest in pursuing options at this point?
Penny stocks on steroids. I'm all for that.
There you go. We'll link that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, thanks for the plug. At the time of this recording, we just put out that video. So, yeah. Ches, like Ches said, we'll put that in the show notes. So you want some bigger movements. You want to be able to leverage, big things. This is not an options course. So if you want to learn more about what Vincent means by that, he actually gave the perfect answer, because it's all summarized in that video. So just go to the show notes, penny stocks on steroids. And that explains exactly what Vincent was saying. So in terms of your chart right now, what exactly is your chart looking like? What do you, do you still think that Bollinger Bands are like what'd you say that was, a sofa, bean chair? Bean bag. Do you still think that, do you use the bean bag on your charts, or tell us about what your chart looks like?
Well, I haven't even used it much. That's part of the new. I haven't got default templates set up with SMAs or Bollinger Bands or anything. I'm waiting till I get my workstation properly set up, and then I can set up my charts with a proper template, as you show in your videos and as the discussion in the chat room demonstrates.
Okay,
Very
so
good.
I mean, how do you foresee it? I mean, are you going to have like 15 different moving averages and 13 different indicators and all that sort of stuff? Or I mean,
12 oscillators that only trigger once every 10 years and things like that.
I mean, what do you anticipate your chart looking like?
I think it's probably going to be just simple moving averages, 3 different ones, and maybe a MACD or an RSI. Probably simple. But I will just experiment and explore all the different tools, and over time, slowly find out what I like and what works for me, and keep an open mind about what sort of trader I want to eventually evolve to become.
I mean, a MACD and maybe an RSI. Ches, I'm not the best counter, but that's only 2 indicators you're going to. I thought you needed to have like 37, indicators and oscillators.
Don't worry, I will sell you my proprietary blend of 50 indicators for only $99 a month. Don't worry, it's a robot. It trades Forex and any market you can think of, but it's got 57 indicators. I can't tell you those. It's a secret.
Well, consider, when I started on price and volume, to go to SMAs and a MACD, that's like going to the Cadillac and a Bollinger Band. That's going to make my world so much brighter right off the bat. And so maybe I'm just not cut out for clutter.
That's good.
In all honesty, Ches, I think we may have to come up with an alert in the chat room about overextended over the beanbag or something like that. I'm never going to be able to picture Bollinger Bands as a Bollinger Band. It's always going to be beanbag. So we're gonna have to come up with some beanbag alerts or something, because that was a classic line.
Yeah, that is. Now, obviously, most people come onto this podcast for really one reason, besides to talk to this clay trader guy, whoever he is, some random on YouTube. They really come here to talk to me and to borrow my time machine. So if I was to lend it to you and you could go back to whenever you started your trading journey, what advice would you give yourself?
Paper trade first.
Why do you say that?
That's a
little cheaper.
A little cheaper. That's what I should have done. And I knew, because that's the biggest thing that I did that I knew I should be doing and didn't do. So I would find a way to, if I could go back in time, I would find a different way to beat myself over the head with that, so that it actually sunk in.
You are not alone at all. I think there's a lot of people out there that acknowledge the fact that they should be paper trading, but trading with real money is just so fun. So I'm going to do it that way. And if that's your mentality,
losing money is not fun.
But exactly. And usually most people have to go down that path first. And then, heck, some people still don't learn and they want to blame others. And then, their final conclusion is the markets are rigged. Stay away. But it is what it is. So now we're going to move into some fun questions. So sure. You have movie theaters up there in Canada, right?
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite movie?
Of all time?
Of all time.
Oh, that would have to be either Back to the Future or Caddyshack.
Where
Both
we're going,
choices.
We don't need roads. Look at me, I'm hopping on the quotes.
That's
here.
true. But that's kind of the gimme. I finally, from a recommendation way back when, I finally seen all 3 Back to the Futures, and that's like the stereotypical quote. So well played, Ches.
Thank you. Now, obviously, we all have to eat and survive, especially in this strenuous game of stock trading and option trading. What would you say is your favorite meal and dessert?
And you can't say moose.
Well, moose. No, I won't say that. I like seafood and I like meat. So I would say beef tenderloin stuffed with salmon, maybe a nice béarnaise sauce, some greens.
Whew, that's above my pay grade there. That sounds fancy.
That is fancy.
Sounds good, though. What about music? What kind of music do you like to listen to, if you do like music?
Oh, all kinds. I play classical guitar as a hobby, and I would but I like jazz and country and classic rock, all kinds of stuff.
Just sounds like you're a general music fan, which is pretty cool, especially considering that you're a musician yourself. Now, what's a exotic place you'd like to visit someday?
Napa.
How does that make you feel? California, he thinks that's exotic. Though you gotta love the Canadians. Napa, California is exotic, you know.
We drove to Disneyland when I was 12. I got a soft spot in my heart for Anaheim.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, to be fair, there's some places I'd like to go visit in Canada where I'd say it and you'd probably be like, what? That's nothing. It's just some mountains and some snow and some moose and stuff like that. But what do you do for fun or hobbies?
I try to take care of myself. I like to go to the gym and work out and so that I can feel good and enjoy the wonderful things in the world.
Yeah. Are you do you just lift for the exercise component, or are you like powerlifting to try to get as strong as possible? I mean, what's kind of your angle in terms of liking to work out?
Well, a lifetime.
I guess I'm assuming you lift, or do you just like to run long distances?
Well, I used to be active in high school in sports, and somehow I got away from it. I used to like running a lot, but a life in the trades can kind of drag down your physical stature. So now that I'm kind of edging my way out of a life of the trades, I'm going to the gym to do basic aerobic stuff, the spin bike and
so you're hitting up that cardio, huh?
And the cardio, the treadmill and a little bit of weights and maybe a dip in the pool. Yeah.
I can picture Vincent right now. The dogs are on the sled, and Vincent is pulling the sled with the dogs on it. It's his cardio workout. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Ches, you need to at least laugh. That was a good joke, and I got at least Vincent mocked me. Well, hey,
it's okay. In post production,
you patronized me a little bit. Try to make me feel better. You just hang that. You're supposed to. We're gonna get a laugh track so that all my jokes.
I was just gonna say in post production, I'm already linking Nate the laugh track stuff that we can license for the podcast. So don't worry. We'll have some laughter there for you.
I was so proud of myself, and then crickets until Vince said, "Oh yeah, that was a good." Anyways,
I had my mic muted, but yes, that was a good.
Whatever. All right, Vincent. Well, we got to wrap this puppy up. So 3 words, and these 3 words have to describe what you would consider to be associated with a successful trader. So what do you got?
Don't lose money.
Don't lose money.
3
or
words.
Maybe 3 words. There it is right there. So short, simple, and to the point. Well, Vincent, thank you for hanging out. This was, a couple of the things maybe that you were just talking about just because talking, but I mean, it made super good conversation points. So thank you for just being kind of transparent and open about how your mindset kind of led you down some not so preferable paths. So thank you for hanging out with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. And we'll definitely have to have you back at some point when you get your system underway and get in your groove and all that sort of stuff. So we'll look forward to that. For you listeners out there, if you enjoyed the podcast and want to just keep up to date on things, a few things to do. First, subscribe to the YouTube player, whether that's through iTunes or any of the other ones out there. Rankings, or I should say, reviews are always helpful as they help with the ranking and let other people know about the show. If you're listening on the website itself, click that share button, leave us comments. We do read those and like to hear from people. And then finally, for those of you that may be listening on YouTube, which apparently is kind of picking up some steam, click the subscribe to the channel. There's lots of other videos out there, live trading videos, chart analysis videos, quick tip videos, lots of stuff. So check out the channel, click that like button, and again, leave us comments. We do read those. So thank you again for hanging out with us, and we will see you back for the next episode.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.